Hello to everyone. So we spent the day yesterday or on Tuesday when I saw you last, going over the mentor text number 2, Fish Cheeks by Amy Tan. So remember, I had you come up with a bunch of emotion words. Then I had you answer why should we write with emotion, because it creates connection and it helps with the message. And then we talked about connotation, right? That's our new big term that we're going over. So it's an idea or a feeling that a word suggests or implies in addition to its literal meaning. So we talked about it having a neutral, a positive, or a negative. We went through those examples there and how if we chose visitor, a positive connotation of visitor is guest, and a word that has a negative connotation would be intruder. We're going to go back to the after we read question after I get done reading the story. But I do want to get to where we were. So again, you already did paragraph 1, talking about her loving the little pastor's boy, Robert. We found love as the emotion word, and we actually underlined pray with our supporting word color, remembering that we're looking for connotation here, and prayer usually has a positive connotation. And since love is a positive emotion, that's a good word there to help support our emotion in that paragraph, or Amy's emotion. Then we went to the second paragraph. We saw the emotion words of Amy for I cried and disappointment. So we decided that she was sad and disappointed. Then we underlined with our supporting word color lacked, terrible, noisy, and shabby, because all of those are negative connotations and they help support this negative emotion. I then had you underline invited or had invited. Now, what this tells us, it's a supporting word, but it tells us about her parents. And when you're inviting someone over, that means your family's probably friendly. So that was a quick review on what we did in class. And now I'm going to quickly kind of go through the rest of it. And you can pause the video and do whatever you need as you kind of go. But make sure you're marking your notes as well. So on Christmas Eve, I saw that my mother had outdone herself in creating a strange menu. She was pulling black veins out of the backs of fleshy prawns. Those are like shrimp. The kitchen was littered with appalling mounds of raw food. A slimy rock cod with bulging eyes that pleaded not to be thrown into a pan of hot oil. Tofu, which looked like stacked wedges of rubbery white sponges. A bowl soaking dried fungus back to life. A plate of squid, their backs crisscrossed with knife markings so they resembled bicycle tires. So when we look back through this paragraph, the only word that has a big emotion tied to it is appalling. If you're appalled by something, like you're disgusted. So I wrote embarrassed over here, but you can also write disgusted because that's a great emotion word too. And then after we identified what's the emotion of the paragraph, is it positive or negative? If you're disgusted or embarrassed, then it's negative. So we got to find the supporting words with that negative connotation. So we're going to skip this first one for now. But we have strange, we have littered, we have slimy, we have bulging, we have rubbery, we have back to life, and we have they resemble bicycle tires. So going back through all of those words and phrases, those all have negative connotations, which helps support this negative emotion that Amy is feeling. Then we look at this top part, and it said, my mother had outdone herself. Outdone is a big word that we want to focus in on because it tells us about the mom's emotion. We don't have an emotion word for her, but if she's outdoing herself, she's going above and beyond, that means mom is proud. So you're going to underline outdone with your supporting word color still. But then over on the left margin, you're going to write in your family emotion word color, so mine was green, that mom is proud. Hopefully you're doing it as we're going. Plus you can pause it, so I'm going to keep going on here. All right. And then they arrived, the minister's family and all my relatives, in a clamor of doorbells and rumpled Christmas packages. Robert grunted hello, and I pretended he was not worthy of existence. So notice in this paragraph, I don't have any emotion words underlined because there are none. But we know that she's still embarrassed because of all the words she used that have that negative connotation, right? We may not know what clamor means, but that just means like a whole bunch of noises happening at one time and it's really loud. Then we have rumpled Christmas packages. So they're disheveled, they're not put together right, they're just messy. We have pretended, which has a negative connotation in this context. Remember, it can change based on context. And then we have not worthy. So all those negative connotated words have that. They help support that emotion there. So Amy's still embarrassed, but then we also have Robert grunted hello. So if you're grunting hello, if you're like, hello, means you don't really want to be there, right? So from that, we can tell that Robert's annoyed. So we have Amy's emotion word. She's still embarrassed. She's still disgusted. We have all our supporting words, but then we find out Robert's emotion. So that's going to be your guest emotion word color because Robert is their guest and he's annoyed he has to be there, right? We don't grunt hello if we're in a good mood. All right, next paragraph. Dinner threw me deeper into despair. My relatives licked the ends of their chopsticks and reached across the table, dipping them into the dozen or so plates of food. Robert and his family waited patiently for platters to be passed to them. My relatives murmured with pleasure when my mother brought out the whole steamed fish. Robert grimaced. Then my father poked his chopsticks just below the fisheye and plucked out the soft meat. Amy, your favorite, he said, offering me the tender fish cheek. I wanted to disappear. So, first thing we look for is emotion words. What's the emotion of the paragraph? This one tells us despair right off the bat. Now, you can put despair over here in Amy's emotion words, but if you're not familiar with despair, you want to put hopelessness. So she's hopeless here. If that word makes more sense to you, put that. If you know the word despair, put despair. So, again, hopelessness, super negative emotion, right? Amy's feeling that. But then we have a couple other ones. We have this patiently. You can be patient. It's not necessarily an emotion, but it can be. Opposite of annoyed. And then we have this word pleasure. So 2 more emotion words. Patiently, we realize it's Robert and his family. So we know that the guests are patient. And then the pleasure is talking about her relatives. So the family is happy and excited. They're pleased, right? That's the whole pleasure aspect of it. The despair, again, is hopeless. And now we have to go back through the supporting words. So my relatives licked the end of their chopsticks and reached across the table. Not necessarily the most negative connotation, but considering we know how she's feeling, she probably feels that that's really gross and really rude, right? So that leads to her hopelessness. Then we have murmured with pleasure. So that murmured with, that means they're whispering to each other. They're excited. They're happy. They're enjoying the food. That's going to help us with how her family feels. Then we get to Robert grimaced. So now we have a new kind of emotion introduced, this grimace part. Basically, Robert's disgusted. So when he grimaces, he's like, that Holstein fish sounds disgusting, so let's not eat it. And then we have these other 2 phrases down here. Well, disappear helps with the hopelessness, right? Amy wants to disappear because she feels hopeless because of all these other things that are going on. But then we have offering me. So her dad's offering her this tender fish cheek, which I would find disgusting, but oh well. But that's a very positive thing there. He's going to offer her this. He's giving it up for her, kind of. So it's showing us that dad is thoughtful. So again, we're not told he's thoughtful, but just by the word choice she uses, it gives us a hint that he's actually caring about her and he's not trying to embarrass her. He's offering her this thing here. All right. 3 more paragraphs and we're done. At the end of the meal, my father leaned back and belched loudly, thanking my mother for her fine cooking. It's a polite Chinese custom to show you are satisfied, explained my father to our astonished guests. Robert was looking down at his plate with a reddened face. The minister managed to muster up a quiet burp. I was stunned into silence for the rest of the night. Again, we got to find out the emotion. So we want to look for emotion words first. That stunned is a big one, right? So if she's stunned, that means she's feeling shocked. So you're going to underline stunned in your Amy's emotion words. And then we got to find out if there's any more. So then we have this word thanking. If you are a thankful person, it kind of describes you, but it also means you're like appreciative. And then satisfied as well. So dad is feeling grateful. So he's feeling thankful, and he is also feeling satisfied. Again, that's talking about her father there, right? So over on the left-hand margin in your family emotion words color, you're putting dad is thankful and satisfied. Then we have this word astonished, and that's talking about our guests, right? They're shocked and surprised, right? They can't believe that this man just burped really loud in front of them. Okay, so they're surprised. The supporting words for that, right? We have a reddened face. So Robert's embarrassed now. He's shocked. He doesn't know what's going on. And then we have the minister, his dad, managed to muster up a quiet burp. So even though he's shocked and surprised, he still tries to like lean into the Chinese custom, even though he's not really feeling it. Okay. We have these words polite, right? That's a positive connotated word that would help with the dad feeling thankful and satisfied. And then let's look at these other ones. So the next ones we have into silence and belched loudly. Both of those negative, right? Negative connotation. It leads to Amy's emotion of being stunned and shocked. Again, you should pause it if I'm going fast because I'm not right in front of you, so I can't tell how fast you're writing. All right, last two paragraphs. After everyone had gone, my mother said to me, "You want to be the same as American girls on the outside?" She handed me an early gift. It was a mini skirt in beige tweed. But inside, you must always be Chinese. You must be proud you are different. Your only shame is to have shame. So we have a few emotion words here. We obviously have proud. We have shame twice. But we have to figure out who they're talking about. So even though mom is saying the whole thought, you must be proud that you are different, she's talking about how she already is proud. So she's telling Amy to be proud because she's proud, right? And then your only shame is to have shame. She's kind of leaning in that Amy is already feeling ashamed. So mom isn't feeling ashamed, but Amy is. So we would write Amy's emotions over here. We would underline shame in Amy's emotion word color. And mom, we have as a proud person, but we also have as thoughtful. So the supporting words for that, the thoughtful part, right? Early gift. She gave her an early gift of a beige tweed miniskirt to make her or help her feel more like an American girl on the outside. That leads to the positive emotion of being thoughtful. And then the must always be Chinese. We can kind of underline that whole phrase. That's pointing to her feeling proud. She's proud of her heritage. She wants Amy to be proud too. And then that different part. So different in this case for mom helps support that she's proud, but different also helps support that Amy is ashamed here. So that kind of goes both ways based on what context you're reading it in, which again, connotation changes with context. So we want to be careful of that or be aware of it. All right, last paragraph. And even though I didn't agree with her there, I knew that she understood how much I had suffered during the evening's dinner. It wasn't until many years later, long after I had gotten over my crush on Robert, that I was able to fully appreciate her lesson and the true purpose behind our particular menu. For Christmas Eve that year, she had chosen all of my favorite foods. So now we kind of have our lesson learned here too. But we want to look at these emotion words first. We always want to identify what emotion is the paragraph trying to convey. We have Amy So with your Amy emotion word, marker, color, whatever it is. Underline didn't agree, underline suffered, and underlining fully appreciate. And when we look back, we realize that these are all the feelings that Amy had felt, right? She disagreed with her mother to start with. She was suffering throughout the whole dinner because of her family. And then it turned into appreciation. So then she was able to be like, oh, wow, my parents really care about me. Then we have this word understood. That shows us, because it's talking about mom here, that mom is understanding person, right? It tells us straight out what the feeling is, what the emotion behind that is. So a couple things here. We need to both support all of these crazy emotions that Amy's feeling. So disagreement and suffering, that is our negative emotion, but appreciation is our positive, right? So now we have long after my crush. This kind of tells us and lends into helping support both of these things, right? She admits she had a crush on Robert, but she also admits she was way over him. She didn't care about him anymore. But her family was still there, right? So both of those word choices help go into both disagreement and suffering and to appreciation. And then at the very end of the story, of course, mom had chosen all of my favorite foods. That's going to not only lend itself to being appreciative, but we can also say that mom is understanding with that, right? She knew that that was her favorite food and she wanted Amy to be proud anyway. So, if you remember, there's a question on that first page of notes that says, after we read, why is it important to understand connotation of words when writing? So you can copy my definition, even though I would ask you to do this on your own first. But it's important to strengthen meaning, descriptions, emotions, and reactions. We need to use connotation to help strengthen all of those things. So if you choose the wrong connotation, so if we look up at this example here for visitor, if you describe a visitor as an intruder and then it's somebody you like, love, and care for, it'll make your writing confusing and unbelievable. You'll become an unreliable narrator because nobody's going to think that you love and care for an intruder. Whereas if you say you love and care for a guest with that positive emotion, it's going to make your writing a lot better. So what you're going to do really quickly, and you can just read the instructions too for your Mimic Mentor writing number 2, you're using emotion and connotation. You're choosing one event from your timeline, one event only, not 2 like the imagery one. And then you're going to complete the highlighted steps, obviously. So make a copy of this document. Woohoo, you did it. You guys are so smart. Then you're going to pick one event from your timeline. You're going to write a strong emotion that you felt during the event. If you need some help, I included a link to a little emotion wheel here. So if you're just thinking sad, happy, angry, let's get a little more creative with our emotions. You can look through that. Go happy, then maybe it's confident, maybe it's proud, whatever. Go down the line so that we can be more creative than just happy. All right. You find your emotion, you put it here. Let's say I'm going to write about a time when I sprained my ankle at Sky Zone. When that happened, my biggest emotion there was disappointment. So this paragraph is going to be all about disappointment. So I type it there. Remember, we need to know if it's a positive or negative emotion. If you're disappointed, that's a negative thing. And then you're going to write a paragraph describing why you felt that emotion during the event. So I'm going to say something like, when I realized I couldn't get off the ground. Trampoline. That's what Sky Zone is full of. I immediately began to cry. Now, right now, it's just sad, but I needed to get to disappointed, right? I realized that my ankle was hurt really bad. and that I was going to have to miss not only basketball workouts, but I possibly wouldn't be able to dance at homecoming. That's coming up. This is one of my homecoming memories, freshman year. Oh, I repeated myself there. There we go. So I'm going to keep going. I want a good long paragraph. And after I do that, I'm going to go back through your paragraph and identify words and what the connotation helps with your emotion. So, negative emotion, disappointment. Obviously, I would add more sentences about getting crutches and all of that other sort of stuff. But since I'm supporting that, cry would be there. So remember, that's a negative connotation because it's a negative emotion anyway. It's helping support my disappointment. So pick whatever color you want. I realized that my ankle was hurt really bad. Right? Hurt and bad would be negative connotations. Oh, badly, sure. I teach English. Promise. And then I was going to have to miss. You don't want to miss things. Missing things is bad. Not only basketball workouts, but I possibly wouldn't be able to dance at homecoming. So, wouldn't be able to. If you're not able to do something, it's negative thing. Again, I would continue. We want our good paragraphs to be at least like 5 sentences long. If it's shorter than that, try harder. Come on now. Then you're going to go back over your event. That shouldn't say both. There we go. Your event for spelling issues. And then, of course, you're going to submit that document to Canvas. So that's kind of a quick rundown of your Mimic Mentor Writing number 2 assignment after you finish those Mentor number 2 article, number 2 story notes. All right, if you need anything, email me, and I should get back to you fairly quickly. But of course, I'll be back Friday, or I'll be back Thursday and Friday as well. Okay, bye.